Well, welcome back to Tame Your Muse. In today's short, we're going to continue making marks on the gel plate with drawing implements. I have a Sharpie, I have some paint markers that are filled with golden fluid acrylic, and we have some matte or gloss medium. I also have some matte medium. I might try. The gloss is what worked well last time, so I may stick with that. But we're going to use those clear mediums to lift the image off the plate. Here's an example of one I did earlier. And now I'm going to try something with lettering. Now, if you know anything about printmaking, the key is anything that's on the plate, when it prints on paper, gets reversed. So letters can be really difficult. So I have two different things I'm going to try to see if they work. And if you have a better way, feel free to tell me. So I am working on a series right now that has to do with trains. And one of the things I love about the trains, at least in my neighborhood, is they often get graffiti on them. And so I'm going to try something with some parchment paper to see if, maybe I should move this right out of the way. Let's put it off the plate. To see if I can create an image on this parchment paper and then print it on the gel plate and then trace over it, if that makes any sense. So let's see. I'm looking at the word love, and I'm going to pretend I am some crazy graffiti person out there. Please don't judge me. My graffiti skills aren't that great. So I'm just going to try to write the word love. It won't be perfect, obviously, because hello, do you know me at all? All right, so I have the word love, and I'm just going to put this over here like that and rub it down and see if the shininess of the parchment allows that to be transferred over. Well, 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 would you look at that? All right, so now I'm setting that aside, and I'm just going to use my paint marker to go back and trace around here and make it look cool like those graffiti kids do. Who are the graffiti kids? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they do their work in the middle of the night. Some of them are annoying when they just, you know, tag their whatever everywhere and ruin things. But some of them are pretty good artists, and I admire their work. I will have to say that mostly I don't understand anything they write. Words, sometimes it's a word that I can understand, and sometimes it's kind of gibberish. I feel real dumb sometimes when I'm trying to figure it out, but I think the clandestine meaning is part of it. I don't know. If you're a graffiti person, maybe you want to comment below and tell me all about it. So again, I just used a piece of parchment paper, which is super glossy, shiny, and nothing really sticks to it. And I just wrote my word and pressed it down on the plate to leave an image. So another technique that is possible that I have not tried is writing it backwards and putting it on my sheet underneath the plate and tracing over it. So if you remember my last short video on making drawing marks on the plate, you will know that it's very important for this thing that I'm working on, right now to be extremely dry before we try to lift it off. So I'm about to finish this up. Let's make that a little bit fatter, maybe rounder. There, are we liking it? I don't know. I'm not a graffiti person, but there you have it. So I'm gonna go cheat and dry this with a hair dryer, and I'll meet you back here and we'll see if we can lift it off. Actually, you should know that I've changed my mind. I was thinking about graffiti and thinking, you know what, that's really great, but the graffiti that I love has beautiful colors. And so I grabbed just some easy cheesy fluid acrylics and some bright colors that those graffiti kids might use. And so I'm going to apply some of this paint on the inside of those letters with a very, very technical device. And it's called my finger. Ha 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 ha. I'm just gonna squish some of this in there. You know, those graffiti kids aren't perfect with their spray paint anyway, so I'm just gonna use my finger and put this on there. I bet you famous rich artists use their fingers to paint more than once in their life. All right, friends, now I'm gonna go hit this with my hair dryer, and when it's done, I will come back and we'll pull it off the plate. Cross your fingers that it comes out the way we want. Well, all right. So here's what's happening. I did hit this with a hair dryer until I thought it was really mostly dry, and then I'll be honest, I let it sit for about 10 minutes and I touched it and it's very dry. So I'm going to grab my gloss medium again. We're gonna roll over top of this and see if we can lift it off. Cross your fingers and let's just see if it's going to work. All right, also, I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna try using an actual paper that I printed earlier with a little bit of white and gray and pearlescent. And let's put it on an actual background and see what happens. I don't know, maybe I should have just gone straight for the plain paper since we are experimenting. But you know, I like to go a little crazy. So I'm gonna be extra lovey-dovey with this and press down and see if I can convince everything that's on this plate to lift up. And now I'm actually going to leave this sitting here, I don't know, at least 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. So I'm gonna meet you back here when I'm ready to pull that off and we'll see what we have. All right, so I timed it. It's been about 5 minutes. We're about to pull this off the plate. Wish me luck. Let's hope it happens. I'm pulling it off. Oof, it looks like parts of it are coming off and parts of it are not. Well, I have to say, it came out pretty good considering the parts that didn't come off. If we investigate, I wonder if the paint was very thick right there or if I didn't get enough gel medium there. I don't know, but I am sure glad that I used this print that was printed already with some white because it looks much better than it would on just some boring old white drawing paper. So I'm calling that a success. I think I will need to investigate with why these bits didn't come off. All right, so I am attempting to recreate this love graffiti in nearly the same way, but with a few minor differences. I think part of the issue that made it not come up when I printed it was that the print I printed it on, the background I printed it on, had been printed that same day and may not have been dry. So also, it could very well have to do with the actual implement I'm using to put paint on here, because mostly what stuck was the edges of the black. And so I've done a good job trying to make sure the edges are very thick. However, I'm noticing once the paint starts to dry on the gel plate and you go over it, the paint pen almost starts to pull that back off. So I don't know if that has any effect or not, but we're experimenting, and so there you have. I did just my same parchment that I used before, traced it on there, flipped it over so my letters would be backward. And I'm going to, this time, put the color in there and let it dry, and instead of pulling it off with the gel medium, I'm going to pull it off on a plain paper with some paint that I hope will have a similar effect to what that background had anyway. So last time I used my finger, which was actually a very fantastic way of doing it. However, since then, I have acquired some tiny rollers that I would like to try out and see if spreading the paint with a tiny roller is better than using my finger. So I'm using this beautiful tiny roller to spread it out. Again, this is a very fluid acrylic that I'm using, which maybe isn't the best thing, but I really love the effect that I got before, and it will have a similar sheen, I think, to the fluid acrylic that's in the paint marker. Alright, I think we're looking pretty good there. Obviously this thing must dry, very, 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 very dry, before we can try to lift it off the plate. So just as I did before, I am going to go and hit it with a hairdryer, and then I will let it sit for a little bit of time, and we will see what sort of background we want to make to pull it off of there. So while I do that, hang on tight. All right, so here we are back again. I did hit this with a hair dryer until it was mostly dry, and then I actually ended up letting it sit for about 30 minutes, partially because I'm editing another video and I just needed that much time, and partially because I thought the drier it is, the better it will turn out. So if you remember, this is the thing we're trying to improve on. These parts stuck and didn't come off the way that I wanted them to, and I'm not sure why. This was actually a print that was already printed with a background, and that may be why. So today, instead of printing it on a background, we're going to print on just a regular plain sheet of paper. However, we're going to lift it up with something interesting. So one of the things I love to use is this silver, because it's super light and it does have the effect of the same background I was sort of looking for. So we'll try that. Again, we are pulling it off with paint this time instead of that gel medium, because we're going for a different effect, hopefully a better effect than what we ended up with last time. And of course we do want to have an interesting background on here. So I've rolled the paint out. It seems like it's a very thin layer, and my idea is to just quick use one of my favorite textures, which is just some burlap, and go over a little bit of the edges around there to give it some interest. And now we're going to attempt to pull this off the plate. So again, we're going to give it lots of love. We're going to press down, and I'm going to let it sit on the plate for, I don't remember, how long did I do it last time? 2 minutes? Something like that. That could be why it stuck, because it was on too long, but also sometimes letting it sit when you're lifting something dry off the plate is the way to go. So let's try that and see what happens. Well, my friends, what a difference that made. Look at that. Much, much better effect the second time around than the first time. Nothing stuck. It peeled clean off the plate. So I have to say, using a gel medium to pull off the plate is one technique, but it hasn't been my most successful technique. I definitely like that a lot better. This is going to have a home in a collage very soon, and you guessed it, it's about trains. There is a little bit of texture from my burlap, and that's it, my friends. I would challenge you to find something that interests you in your environment that you can draw on your gel plate with a paint marker or even a Sharpie like we did before, and see if you can combine some techniques to make something fabulous. Thanks so much for watching.